Before I decided to not be a lawyer, I still went on a lot of interviews for internships. I got the feeling that, at least in Nebraska, they cared more about turnover than actually hiring good lawyers, because my resume had my home address in New York, I guess, or it had my undergrad in New York, it had grad school in Wisconsin, I was living in Nebraska at the time, it had either UPS or poker or both on the resume in Vegas, so it showed that I moved around a lot, and I got the sense that they just wanted someone who was going to live in Lincoln his or her entire life, and they were never going to have to rehire anybody. They didn't think I would like stay more than a year or two if they hired me. Yeah, there just weren't, I mean, people way stupider than me. For one, you could just talk to someone and understand how stupid they are. You could also listen when they're answering questions in class and understand how much they're failing to grasp the concepts and how poor they would be at persuading anyone. I was always more into trial stuff than business stuff. Once we got to choose our classes, I took way more of the trial stuff, like all the trial stuff, and none of the M&A stuff, none of the tax classes. So I don't know in that realm if I would have been good or poor, or, I mean, I would have been fine. I don't know if I would have been the best. Trial stuff, there was no one better than me in that class. And no one cared. No one really cared after high school, after college, or after grad school either. I remember in grad school, someone much stupider than me, who went to a much worse undergrad college, had a less relevant work experience between working full-time and grad school, and didn't do as well as me on the first professional exam. She got hired before the first semester was done, and I interviewed all first and second semester. It was a one-year program, and no one ever hired me. So just didn't matter. When I'm doing things, the one thing I have going for me is that I'm better than the other people doing it. And in school, there was just no one who ever cared. So law school was the third time, and after that moot court contest, I was finishing. I knew I would finish all 3 years, but I wasn't going to take the bar and I wasn't going to be a lawyer. Classes were interesting, which is one of the reasons I wasn't just going to drop out. We had one professor from Boston. It's very rare to teach where you went to law school, so you have a lot of professors from other law schools, of course, but like nearby, a lot in the Midwest. Well, this guy was from Boston, and he loved the Red Sox, and he loved talking about baseball and the Red Sox. And for one, not a ton of people were following baseball in my class. Also, you're not going to know like real hardcore like Red Sox Yankees information if you lived your whole life in Lincoln or the surrounding area. There was one time he said, so if you do follow baseball, you remember in 03, the ALCS, Yankees Red Sox, Pedro had a lead, he wasn't doing well. Grady Little, the manager, went out to the mound. Everyone thought he was taking Pedro out and putting in a relief pitcher, and it was just a conversation on the mound. And Grady Little came back to the dugout, left Pedro in, and the Red Sox lost the lead instantly and then lost the series. There was a time that professor said something about a surprise. He's like, yeah, I mean, it's not like I've never been surprised in my life. I mean, I remember in 03 when Grady Little didn't take him out. It was so subtle. I think I'm the only person in the room who even knew he was talking about baseball when he said that. Definitely no one knew who Grady Little was or who the pitcher he was about to take out was without the guy saying it. So class was real interesting. It wasn't just that professor, but a lot of the professors were interesting. We also had a professor who worked in the Defense Department when Bush was president and Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense. So he was real knowledgeable, also interesting. So classes were actually enjoyable. So I finished the 3 years, but stopped interviewing and didn't do any of the steps to like apply for. And there's like a lot of things you have to do before you like actually walk in and take the bar exam. I didn't do any of those things. I was finishing the 3 years, but I wasn't going to be a lawyer.